Imagine rushing to your first big job presentation, only to jump into the wrong car, and it's not just any car, it's the CEO's. What happens next? Before we dive into this incredible story, we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. And if you love inspiring stories like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow, we've got another jaw-dropping tale that you won't want to miss. Lily Adams was running late, unbelievably late. It was her first day at BluePeak Innovations, a top-tier tech company in New York City, and she could already feel the pressure mounting. She had just graduated from college, eager to start her career, and everything was supposed to go perfectly. But of course, life had other plans. Her phone died as soon as she confirmed her ride through the app. In a panic, she shoved her phone into her bag and looked around. The rain was coming down in sheets, and her flimsy umbrella was practically useless. She struggled to shield herself from the downpour, her heart racing with every passing second. The last thing she needed was to be late on her first day. Just as she was about to give up, a sleek black car pulled up in front of her, stopping right at the curb. It was the exact car from the app. Lily's eyes lit up with relief. Finally. She hurried toward it, nearly throwing open the door as the driver, a well-dressed man in a tailored suit, turned to her. "Thank goodness you're here." Lily gasped, trying to juggle the umbrella and her bag while hopping into the back seat. "I'm running so late. I can't miss the CEO's presentation at BluePeak. If I do, they'll fire me before I even sign the contract." The man, whose features were sharp and serious, didn't respond at first. He simply stared straight ahead, gripping the wheel. Lily, still catching her breath, blurted out, "Please, just go straight, turn right after the cafe with the BluePeak name. I'm telling you, if I don't get there in time, I'm done." The man's eyes flickered toward her for a brief moment before he slowly shifted his focus back to the road. "I understand," he said, his voice low and controlled, "but if you don't mind, maybe we should start with a bit of quiet. I'll handle the traffic." Lily blinked, surprised by the calm demeanor. She didn't notice the car's logo, the luxury of the interior, or the way the leather seats seemed to hug her every movement. Instead, she continued nervously rattling off every little detail of her chaotic morning, not realizing that the man she was speaking to wasn't just an Uber driver. Lily tried to settle into the back seat, but her nerves kept her on edge. She shifted in her seat, still holding the umbrella that dripped water all over the place, trying not to ruin the car's interior. It was clear that everything was going wrong today, and she couldn't help but keep rambling about it. "Ugh, what a disaster. I'm telling you, my morning's been awful," she continued, her voice picking up speed. "My alarm didn't go off, I spilled coffee all over my shirt, and on top of all that, I put on mismatched socks. Look at this." Without waiting for a response, Lily lifted the hem of her pants, revealing one sock with dancing cats on it and the other with tacos. "Can you believe it?" she laughed nervously, though the man behind the wheel remained utterly unfazed. "One sock is Christmas cats, and the other is tacos. Classic, right?" The man, still keeping his eyes on the road, gave a single, barely noticeable blink. His face was unreadable, but the corner of his lips twitched slightly as he adjusted his grip on the wheel. Lily let out a sigh of relief and sank into the seat, giving in to her moment of vulnerable absurdity. "I know, I must look insane," she muttered, half laughing. "I'm just so stressed. I had to rush through everything this morning, get my coffee, then rush to the car, and of course, my phone dies right when I need it most. Why do these things always happen to me?" At that point, the man turned his head slightly. His gaze met hers for the briefest of moments, and Lily froze, realizing that, in her frantic state, she hadn't even bothered to confirm the driver's name. "I didn't even ask you for your name, and here I am treating you like my personal chauffeur. Sorry about that. My phone's dead, and I'm kind of out of it," she added, hoping he wouldn't think she was totally insane. The man remained silent, keeping his focus on the road. "It's fine," he said, his tone still calm, "I'm just here to get you to your destination safely." Lily felt a weird sense of relief. At least she wasn't totally losing it. I'm so sorry. You're probably used to dealing with crazy passengers, huh? I bet you've heard it all. If I were you, I'd write a book about the wildest Uber stories. It could be a bestseller, The Chronicles of a Silent Uber Driver. The man didn't respond immediately, but for a moment, Lily thought she saw a flicker of a smile tug at the corners of his lips. She took a deep breath, glancing out the window as the city passed by in a blur. She didn't notice the moment when the sleek, expensive car had switched lanes, nor did she realize that her ride had taken her to a very different place than expected. Are you always this quiet? Lily asked again, trying to break the tension. I mean, I like it. It's kind of mysterious. I'm sure you've heard some insane passenger stories. You must have a whole collection of them, huh? The man's eyes flickered toward her, his expression still unreadable. I suppose you could say that, he muttered. As the car smoothly made its way through the city streets, Lily grew increasingly comfortable. The tension in her shoulders slowly melted away, and she found herself talking more freely, almost as if the man behind the wheel were a friend she'd known for years. You know, Lily continued, half laughing, I think I might actually deserve a medal for how chaotic my life is today. I mean, who else has the guts to walk into their first day at a new job with one sock covered in penguins and the other with tacos? I'm basically an adult-sized mess. She could hear the faintest sound of a chuckle from the man's side, though he didn't turn toward her. But then, just as quickly as it had appeared, the sound was gone. She wondered if maybe he had just been humoring her. You're probably used to all kinds of weird passengers, huh? If I were you, I'd definitely write a book. It'd be a bestseller for sure, Memoirs of a Silent Uber Driver. She grinned, thinking about how ridiculous she must sound. But, to her surprise, the man turned his head slightly again and gave a brief but amused look. For a split second, Lily thought she saw something in his eyes, something warm, yet unreadable. But before she could ask about it, she shifted her focus back to the window, where the city's skyline was fading behind them. By the way, Lily continued, did you know that croissants at that cafe near the French Corner charge, like, $9 for one? I mean, it's just bread and butter, right? I tried one yesterday, and I'm still chewing on the guilt of paying for it. The man's lips twitched again, this time just a little more than before. He blinked once, then his expression returned to its usual unreadable state. But Lily, caught up in the chaos of her day, didn't even notice. She was too wrapped up in her own world of tangents. She stared at the passing buildings and sighed in relief. Honestly, though, I've been running around like a chicken with its head cut off. Coffee burns, mismatched socks, rushing into meetings. If anyone's paying attention, I'm pretty much a disaster. There was a long pause. Then, in the quietest of voices, the man spoke, sometimes, life throws us these moments for a reason. Lily blinked, slightly thrown off by the unexpected depth of his words. Yeah, maybe. It's just that today feels like one of those rom-coms, but without the romance, and without the comedy, she muttered. She laughed awkwardly at her own comment, unsure why she felt the need to fill the silence. That was when the car slowed down to a stop, and Lily looked up, realizing they had reached the entrance to BluePeak. Oh, we're here, she said, a little more quietly now. She hesitated for a moment, suddenly aware that her frantic chatter might have been a bit much. Thank you for putting up with my rambling. You're a lifesaver. Or a really quiet Uber driver. She quickly added, sorry for not confirming your name. My phone died on the way, and I didn't even get to see who you were, but you stopped right when I needed you. So, it had to be fate, right? Or, something like that. The man didn't respond, and Lily stepped out of the car, still feeling the buzz of nerves and the excitement of her first day at work. She turned to thank him again, but to her surprise, the driver was already looking straight ahead, the door closed with a soft click. Lily rushed into the building, her heart still pounding from the hectic morning. She tried to smooth down her damp hair as she hurried to the elevator. She'd barely made it past the lobby when the elevator doors almost closed on her, but a kind coworker held them open just in time. As she stepped inside, she gave a nervous smile and glanced at her reflection in the shiny elevator doors. Her mismatched socks and rumpled shirt were a far cry from the polished professional she hoped to be. When she stepped onto the office floor, her coworkers were already gathering for the morning meeting. A whispering buzz filled the air as everyone noticed her appearance. "Hey Lily, almost missed the presentation with the new CEO," her coworker Rachel whispered. "Yeah, I know. Crazy Uber driver, crazy traffic, chaotic morning," Lily muttered, still trying to pull herself together. Just then, the door to the conference room swung open, and everyone quickly fell silent. The new CEO had arrived. Lily tried to calm her racing heart as she joined the others, still adjusting her hair, and tried to look as composed as possible. As everyone settled into their seats, she couldn't help but notice the distinct aura of authority around the man who had just walked in. His commanding presence was hard to ignore, even in a room full of confident professionals. Then, the moment that changed everything happened. The door opened slowly, and in walked the CEO, James Harper. Impeccably dressed in a dark suit, his calm demeanor made him stand out even more than his sharp features. He moved across the room with purpose, his eyes scanning the room as if he were already assessing everyone present. And then, his eyes landed on her. Lily froze, her pulse skipping a beat. The file she had been holding slipped from her hands, crashing to the floor with a loud thud. "This is James Harper, our new CEO," the coordinator announced with excitement. "Let's all welcome him." James stepped up to the podium, scanning the room. His eyes locked onto hers again, and a faint smirk tugged at his lips, as though he were silently acknowledging something only he knew. Lily's face drained of color as the full realization hit her. The man she had so casually bossed around in the car, the one she had told to step on it, was now standing in front of her as her new boss. She felt the weight of the entire room's gaze on her. James, with an almost playful glint in his eyes, spoke up. "I hope my arrival today didn't catch anyone off guard," he said, his tone smooth and controlled, yet there was a hint of amusement in his words. His gaze remained fixed on Lily as he added, "Especially those who mistook me for an Uber driver." The silence that followed was deafening. It felt as if every person in the room was waiting for Lily to crumble. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She was rooted to the spot, utterly mortified, her face burning with embarrassment. The CEO continued, "But I do appreciate the enthusiasm of those who have already demonstrated great initiative in handling unique situations." His eyes flicked to Lily again. "For example, Ms. Adams here," he said, subtly motioning toward her. "She's shown tremendous initiative today, as always. A person who doesn't shy away from a challenge." Lily forced a tight smile, barely able to hear the words he was saying. Her mind was screaming at her, replaying the moments when she'd acted like a total fool in the car. She had asked him to speed up, she'd talked about her socks, and she'd made jokes about his car being like a luxury Uber. And now, he was standing in front of her, recounting it all, no doubt enjoying the spectacle of her discomfort. The meeting carried on, with James speaking about company goals, upcoming plans, and new strategies. But all Lily could hear was the deafening voice in her head reminding her that she had, in fact, treated her new CEO like an overworked Uber driver. When the meeting finally ended and her colleagues began to shuffle out, Lily tried to slip away unnoticed. But of course, she was not fast enough. "Ms. Adams," James called out, his voice polite yet carrying an unmistakable edge of humor. A moment. Lily turned slowly, feeling the eyes of her colleagues on her as if they were watching a live TV drama. This was it. The moment where her career either took off, or completely crumbled. "Yes, sir," she replied, her voice unsteady as she tried to calm the storm brewing inside her. James took 2 steps toward her, his eyes never leaving hers. "I trust your ride to work today was enjoyable?" he asked, his serious expression belying the mischief twinkling in his eyes. Lily forced a tight-lipped smile, trying to play it cool. "Oh, very enjoyable, sir." One of the best Uber rides I've ever had. He raised an eyebrow, a glimmer of amusement in his gaze. Good to know. Although, some drivers might deserve more than just a 5-star rating. Maybe even a promotion. He smirked slightly. Lily let out a nervous laugh. Oh, that's not necessary. I mean, the driver was great, but I'm not sure he's looking for a promotion. James tilted his head slightly, clearly entertained. We'll talk later, Ms. Adams. I have some ideas. He winked, his grin almost mischievous. Lily stumbled out of the room, her face burning from the embarrassment, her mind racing with the possibilities. She had no idea what James meant by ideas, but she had a sinking feeling that her first day at BluePeak had just taken a turn she didn't expect. Lily couldn't shake the feeling that something big had just happened, something she didn't fully understand. She made her way back to her desk, her thoughts swirling with everything that had just occurred. As she sat down, she noticed the stares from her coworkers. They had witnessed the awkward exchange between her and James, the CEO. She could feel the weight of their eyes on her, but she did her best to ignore it. The rest of the afternoon was a blur of emails, calls, and tasks. But despite the chaos, Lily couldn't focus. Her thoughts kept drifting back to James. What did he mean by ideas? Why had he winked at her? Was this a test? Was she going to be fired or promoted? It wasn't long before Rachel, her coworker and best friend, appeared at her desk, a mischievous grin on her face. So, how'd it go with the CEO? Rachel teased. I bet it was a little more than just getting to work on time, huh? Lily groaned, burying her face in her hands. I can't believe I did that, she muttered. I treated him like an Uber driver. I actually made him listen to me talk about my mismatched socks. Oh my God, I can't even look at him the same way. Rachel laughed, shaking her head. Well, one thing's for sure, you've definitely left an impression. The CEO knows your name now, and probably a whole lot more than that. Lily sighed, feeling like the walls of the office were closing in on her. But just as she was about to drown in embarrassment, her phone buzzed with an email notification. The subject line caught her eye, meeting with James Harper, CEO, 3 p.m. What is this? She muttered, clicking on the email. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw the message from James himself. Lily, I'd like to meet with you at 3 p.m. in my office. We have some things to discuss regarding the upcoming project. Be prepared to pitch your ideas. James. Her stomach dropped. She had no idea what he meant by pitch your ideas, but she could feel the weight of this moment. Was this her chance to redeem herself, or was it a trap? With little time to prepare, she grabbed her notes and headed to James's office, her hands shaking slightly. She couldn't help but think back to everything that had happened that morning. What was she getting herself into? When she reached his office, the door was already open. James was sitting at his desk, a thoughtful expression on his face as he looked over some reports. He glanced up when she entered, giving her a small nod. Ms. Adams, he greeted her, his voice calm and professional. Please, have a seat. Lily sat down, still unsure of what to expect. So, you wanted to talk about the project? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. James leaned back in his chair, looking at her with a scrutinizing gaze. Yes. But more specifically, I want to know what you think we should do about it. You've been with the company for a short time, but I think you've already shown you have a unique perspective. I want to hear your ideas. Lily blinked, shocked. She hadn't expected to be asked for her input so soon, especially not by someone as high up as James. But this was her chance. She could either stumble through it and let this opportunity slip away, or she could take a deep breath, step up, and give it her all. She sat up straighter, gathering her thoughts. Well, based on what I've seen so far, I think we could improve the project timeline and streamline the communication between departments. I've noticed some bottlenecks in how information is being shared, and I think we can implement a more efficient workflow. Also, with the current marketing trends, I believe we can make this project more consumer-focused by tapping into social media influencers, which could boost our brand presence significantly. James listened intently, nodding occasionally as Lily spoke. For the first time, she didn't feel like a rookie or a mistake waiting to happen. She felt heard. His gaze wasn't judgmental, instead, it was focused, almost appreciative. "Those are solid ideas," James finally said, his tone giving nothing away. "But how do you plan to implement them? What steps would you take?" Lily's confidence grew with every word she spoke. She outlined her plan, detailing the steps she would take to make the improvements and why they would work. She didn't just talk, she believed in what she was saying. When she finished, there was a pause. James leaned forward slightly, his eyes piercing through her. "I'm impressed, Lily. You've got a sharp mind. We could use more people with your creativity and problem-solving skills. I'd like you to take on a leadership role in this project." Lily's heart skipped. She had expected to be given more grunt work, not the chance to lead. James continued, "This will be a challenge. But I think you're up for it. Just don't forget to double-check your Uber rides next time," he added with a sly smile, his usual seriousness giving way to something lighter. Lily couldn't help but laugh, the tension in her shoulders finally easing. "I won't," she replied, a grin tugging at her lips. "And I promise I won't mix up the CEO with an Uber driver again." James stood up, extending his hand to her. "Good. Let's get to work." The next few weeks at BluePeak were a whirlwind for Lily. She had been given the leadership role in the new project, something she never expected. The idea of being in charge of a major initiative was overwhelming at first, but she dove into the task with newfound determination. Her mornings were spent reviewing data, coordinating with various departments, and developing strategies to optimize the project's workflow. She had quickly become a respected member of the team, and her confidence grew as her ideas took shape. With every meeting, she found herself thinking more like a leader than a newbie trying to make a good impression. Her colleagues no longer saw her as the nervous, mismatched sock-wearing girl who had embarrassed herself in front of the CEO on her first day. They saw her as someone with valuable insights and a clear vision for the future. Despite the success of the project, however, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed between her and James. While they still worked closely together, the dynamic had shifted. He was no longer just her boss, he was someone she admired, someone who pushed her to be better every day. But, as much as she tried to ignore it, she realized that her feelings for him were growing stronger. The connection they had formed after the infamous Uber incident had deepened, and now, she found herself thinking about him in ways that went beyond professional respect. One afternoon, as they sat in a conference room discussing the progress of the project, James leaned back in his chair, his gaze focused on the screen in front of him. Lily, on the other hand, couldn't help but notice how his presence seemed to fill the room. There was an undeniable chemistry between them that neither of them had acknowledged. "Your team's doing well," James said, his voice calm but firm. "The project is on track, and your leadership has made a significant impact." Lily smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "Thank you. It's been a team effort, but I've learned a lot from you." James looked up from the screen, meeting her gaze. For a moment, there was a flicker of something in his eyes, something unspoken. Lily's heart skipped a beat, but before she could say anything, the moment was broken by the ringing of her phone. She quickly picked it up, trying to hide the flustered look on her face. It was Rachel calling. "Hey, Rachel," Lily answered, stepping out of the room to take the call. "Hey, girl. I just wanted to say, you're killing it," Rachel said, her voice brimming with excitement. "I mean, you've become one of the most valuable people in that company. And from what I hear, James seems to be noticing you more and more lately." Lily chuckled nervously, trying to brush it off. "It's all professional, Rach. Just work." But Rachel wasn't buying it. Sure. You might not admit it, but I see the way you two look at each other. And don't think I didn't hear about that dinner invitation a few weeks ago. I'm telling you, it's only a matter of time. Lily rolled her eyes, though a smile tugged at her lips. You're imagining things. He's my boss, and I'm just focused on my work. Rachel let out a dramatic sigh. Whatever you say, but if you ask me, it's a romance waiting to happen. I'll be here for the popcorn. After hanging up, Lily returned to the conference room, where James was still seated, reviewing reports. She couldn't help but feel a little nervous, but she forced herself to focus on the task at hand. Everything okay? James asked, his tone casual as he glanced up at her. Yeah, just Rachel being Rachel, Lily replied with a small laugh. She sat back down, feeling the weight of his gaze on her. James smiled slightly. Well, don't let distractions get in the way of your success. You're doing great. Keep it up. Lily felt a mix of emotions, pride, anxiety, and something else, something that made her heart race a little faster. Was this the moment when everything would change? Or was she just overthinking it all? As the days went on, Lily found herself navigating a delicate balance. She was growing into her role as a leader at BluePeak, earning the respect of her colleagues, and excelling at the challenges James had set before her. But no matter how much she focused on her work, her thoughts kept returning to him. His encouragement, his quiet confidence, the way he always seemed to know exactly what she needed to hear. It wasn't just admiration, there was something deeper growing between them. And now, more than ever, she was starting to wonder, was it possible for someone like James to see her as more than just an employee? Or was this simply a professional relationship with no room for anything else? Weeks passed, and Lily's confidence continued to grow. She had firmly established herself at BluePeak Innovations, and her project was on track to become one of the company's most successful initiatives. But even as her career soared, she couldn't help but feel the growing tension between herself and James. The man who had been the distant, almost intimidating CEO was slowly becoming someone she couldn't stop thinking about. One late evening, after a particularly grueling workday, Lily found herself standing at the window of her office, looking out over the city. The lights twinkled below, and the cool breeze from the open window felt refreshing. It had been one of those days where everything seemed to click, and she felt proud of what she had accomplished. Yet, there was still something missing, a certain feeling that lingered in her chest. As she turned away from the window, she bumped into a figure in the doorway. It was James. Busy night? He asked, his voice softer than usual. Lily blinked in surprise, trying to cover the unexpected rush of emotions that surged through her. I just finished reviewing some reports. You know, the usual. James stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. I know you've been working hard. Your dedication has been impressive. The project's success is largely thanks to you. Lily smiled, though she could feel her heart racing. It's been a team effort, really. James walked over to her desk, his gaze settling on her. You're not just a part of the team, Lily. You've become the driving force behind this company's success. I think I've underestimated you. Her pulse quickened at his words. I'm just doing my job. James paused for a moment before speaking again. You're doing more than that. You've changed how I look at things. How I look at you. The tension in the room grew thicker, and Lily found it hard to breathe. She didn't know what to say. Was he hinting at something? Or was this just a moment of professional admiration? James's eyes softened, and there was an unmistakable sincerity in his gaze. I know this might be unexpected, but I've come to realize something about you. You've got a heart full of determination, and you're not afraid to be yourself. And that's something I admire. Lily's mind was racing. Her emotions were running wild, confusion, excitement, and a little fear. Was this the moment where everything changed? Before she could find the words to respond, James took a step closer. I've been trying to make sense of everything between us, but I'm not so sure I want to keep it in the professional realm anymore. Lily, you're the most real person I've met in a long time. And I can't deny that I've been thinking about you, more than I should." Lily's heart was pounding in her chest as she processed his words. It felt like the world had stopped moving, and all that mattered was this moment. The man who had once been an aloof CEO was now standing before her, vulnerable and open in a way she had never imagined. "James," she whispered, her voice shaky. I didn't know you felt that way." He smiled softly, his eyes full of warmth. "I'm not sure how to navigate this. I'm still your boss, and I don't want to make things complicated. But I can't ignore how I feel." Lily felt a lump form in her throat. She had never expected to be here, standing face to face with James, her CEO, like this. But the connection they had built over the past few months, the shared moments, the challenges they'd faced together, had brought them here. "I've been thinking about you too," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "But we've had a lot of professional boundaries, and I don't want to mess that up." James stepped back slightly, nodding. "I get it. And I don't want to push you into anything you're not ready for. But I think we deserve a chance to see where this could go, together." The weight of the moment was palpable, but it felt right. Lily smiled, a sense of peace washing over her. Maybe it wasn't about having all the answers. Maybe it was just about being honest with each other and taking a leap of faith. "I agree," she said, her voice steady now. "Let's see where this goes." The days following their conversation were filled with an unusual sense of calm. It wasn't that things had stopped being challenging at work, far from it. BluePeak Innovations continued to grow, and Lily's leadership on the project was more important than ever. But something had shifted between her and James. The professional walls they had both carefully built around themselves began to crumble, replaced by a connection that felt stronger with each passing day. Lily still worked tirelessly, managing the project and navigating the demands of her job. But she wasn't the same person she had been when she first started. She had grown into her role, becoming more confident and assertive, not just as a leader at BluePeak, but as someone who knew her worth. And then, one evening, as Lily and James sat across from each other at a company dinner, enjoying the rare opportunity to relax without the weight of work on their shoulders, something clicked. They were no longer just colleagues. They weren't just boss and employee. They were two people who had found something real in the midst of their hectic lives. As the night went on, they shared laughs, stories, and moments of quiet understanding. The connection that had once felt like a spark now felt like a steady flame. Lily realized that she hadn't just found success in her career, she had found someone who saw her for who she truly was, someone who believed in her, even when she doubted herself. James, for his part, had learned to let go of the strict professional boundaries he had clung to. The fear of losing control, of letting someone in, had held him back for years. But with Lily, everything felt different. She had challenged him in ways he hadn't expected, making him realize that being vulnerable wasn't a weakness, it was a strength. As they stood on the rooftop of their office building later that night, gazing at the city below, James turned to Lily. "You know," he said, his voice soft, "when I first met you, I never could have imagined that we'd be here. But I'm glad we are." Lily smiled, the warmth of the city lights reflecting in her eyes. "Me too," she said. "It's funny, isn't it? How the things that seem like disasters can sometimes lead us to exactly where we need to be." James nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "Life has a funny way of guiding us. And I think we've both learned a lot along the way. Sometimes, the mistakes and failures we fear the most are the ones that shape us into who we're meant to be." Lily's journey, her chaotic first day at BluePeak, the embarrassing encounter with James, and the way she grew into her role, reminds us that embracing the unexpected can lead to incredible opportunities. Whether it's in our careers, relationships, or personal growth, it's the challenges we face and the way we rise above them that define our success. And just like Lily, we can all find the strength to face our fears, challenge the status quo, and embrace the unknown. After all, it's often when we step outside our comfort zones that we discover the best version of ourselves.